Hey guys, welcome back. Vincent Giallo here. Good to see you guys today on episode 1 of the Horror Rewind with Black Christmas. One of the greats. But first, before we get into it, guys, actually before we get into getting into it, I'm just going to do a little touch up here. Just got it cleaned up, but I forgot to throw on the old aftershaves. Just get a little freshened up. Oh yeah, it's nice. Oh my God! Whew. Tell you, Brute 33. I suppose it's not even Brute 33 anymore, is it? Just Brute. Check that out. If it's good enough for Ash Williams, it's good enough for Vincent Giallo. Black Christmas, 1974. Now, guys, make sure you tune in. Hit the subscribe bell, notification. Leave some comments below as well, because this is episode 1. But what I'm going to do here is we're going to proceed going through as many 80s slashers as humanly possible in chronological order, so we can kind of see the evolution of the North American slasher film, as it were, from beginning to end. I've got hundreds of them, and I've seen them all, and I'm going to rewatch them all, and we're going to talk about them all. So if you dig that kind of stuff, hit that notification bell, guys, subscribe, and leave some comments below, because it's important to me, guys, because when I put up this video, obviously, Black Christmas, there's thousands of entries for Black Christmas, so this video is just going to get lost in the shuffle, unless there's a lot of comments and, thumbs up and subscriptions and things, because the guys that have thousands of subscribers, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, it's great for them, but it keeps our videos, kind of pushed down at the bottom, because there's whatever, when there's YouTube algorithm sorting them. I mean, this is nothing to them, right? Little blip on the radar. So if you can, it all helps. I greatly appreciate it. But yes, guys. So stay tuned for this and for the videos moving forward. Black Christmas, 1974, guys. Directed by Bob Clark, who's no longer with us. Killed by a drunk driver on the Pacific Coast Highway a few years ago, sadly. And he did some great pictures that I really, really enjoy. One that comes up to mind is Murder by Decree. It's kind of like a Sherlock Holmes story. Kind of horror, like slasher kind of elements to it. Really good stuff. Of course, he did A Christmas Story, with the kid and like the leg lamp and stuff like that. Porky's. And his writing partner was Alan Ormsby. And they did, or he did it with him. I can't remember if it was just Ormsby. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, which is another kind of creepy zombie kind of flick from 1972, I believe. Really dig that one. There's an eerie feel to it. And another great one is, what the hell's the name of that thing? God, Deranged, with the old neighbor dude from Home Alone. Pre-Home Alone, obviously. So it's kind of funny to see him as a next door and the kids are afraid of him, when actually he was this horrible Ed Gein portraying character in Deranged, which was, I believe, Ormsby directed, or he has something to do with it. And I think Bob Clark, even the kind of movies he's made, he thought that was a little bit too grim of content, I think, and he withdrew himself from the project. But I really like that movie, really good. And before we get into it, I guess we should quickly talk about the new film that just came out, Black Christmas. I think what we should do, and I'll be the first to head up the committee on this, is we should have like a moratorium, at least in name or title, for some of these movies, like Black Christmas with pink lettering, and it just like, and it's this Blumhouse stuff. Like, I'm not a giant fan of these movies that have been made nowadays. Like, to be honest, I mean, they're really. This is why I want to review all these movies and go through them all. However long it takes us to go through all these horror movies, because a lot of people out there, they're subscribed to Amazon or Netflix. They're not even showing these flicks. These flicks are kind of what started it all. And I sound like some old cantankerous old guy. It was better back then. Man, it was better back then. It just was. These movies are terrible. Like, they're not good. Like, I get it, like, they're kind of exciting, and there's, the music and the soundtrack and the explosions and the bang, a guy going in with a knife, and you hear the surround and stuff, and that's great, but it's cheap. Cheap scares, jump scares. It's, at least, I want want to make these videos so other people maybe come across this stuff, other than the real fans like you guys, that'll actually, you know, besides you guys, will actually maybe pick up one of these movies and watch them. But anyways, back to this movie. I don't know, you know, no, I'll be honest. I don't know anything about the, Sophia Takal or whatever her name is. I don't know anything about her outside of what I've seen of her on Pornhub. So I can't really comment outside of that. But this film, I believe, was the new one was, you know, supposed to be an attempt at you know, empowering women and, you know, empowered women fighting back and all this kind of stuff. And great concept. There's nothing wrong with that. And strong characters, female characters, and things like that. But somehow I found the picture to be even more exploitative than any 80s slasher I've ever seen. I don't know. I don't know what it was about it, but let's like make no mistake, guys. The original 1974 classic was a strong picture. It's not an overtly feminist picture, but there are some strong female characters in that film, and the final girl fighting back and actually, you know, in her mind, winning and defeating the killer, and just a real strong portrayal by all the lead actresses in that flick. You know, if the intent was to take that title and destroy it, but also create something that was maybe a slight throwback to the original with a few scenes that kind of loosely make it look like that, and to infuse these strong feminist characters, it needn't be done because the original was already doing those things. But anyways, 1974, Black Christmas, directed by Bob Clark. We had Olivia Hussey in this as Jess, Keir Dullea as Peta, Margot Kidder as Barb, John Saxon as Ken Fuller, Andrea Martin as Phil, Art Hindle as Chris with the big fluffy jacket. I love it. And Nick Mancuso, I can't remember if he's uncredited or not, as It's Me, Billy, as Billy. Okay, so you've got these girls on Christmas break in their sorority, you know, just hanging around, waiting for Christmas, drinking and stuff like that. And again, these are empowered women. You can tell by, you know, a lot of the stuff going on, the way they talk to each other, and, you know, anyways, if they start getting these creepy phone calls, explicitly graphic phone calls from this creepy Billy dude, really graphic, and I love it. And he's dropping like C-bombs and just creepy stuff, and yeah, just really intense and interesting. Well, we'll get into that after. But, you know, he starts making these phone calls, and, you know, the girls are like, who is this guy? And Margot Kidder's really kind of a badass, you know, and she's sort of a drunk lush, I guess. And she starts talking back to him, you know, graphically and saying, you know, why don't you do this and stuff like that. So, you know, she's kind of pushing his buttons, and he's, you know, kind of calls back a few times and stuff. And then, you know, when one of the girls goes missing, and her father shows up to pick her up from school and take her home for the holidays, and, you know, she doesn't turn up. So the girls started kind of getting a little bit worried and stuff, and, you know, a few things happen, and there's a girl, you know, goes missing in the park. And so, you know, enter Lieutenant Ken Fuller, who is the lieutenant of the precinct there in a town. And, you know, the girls show up there and start kind of saying, like, there's, you know, one of our classmates, one of our sorority sisters is missing. You know, and we're not sure what's going on. So, you know, things progress, and they're kind of dying one by one. And they put a tap on the phone, and lo and behold, the calls are coming from inside the house. Great concept for 1974. We've seen it a bazillion times since, but it was one of the first, you know, to come up with that concept, and really kind of cool. You know, you got to just really, when you watch this film, and a lot of these old films, you got to just put yourself in that moment in time and just realize that, you know, yeah, we've seen it a bazillion times, but, you know, this was one of the first times we've seen something like this. Okay, so, you know, and so things happen, there's kills, some red herrings. You know, we do get 6 kills in this thing. Not a lot of slashing. We get stabbings, we get, you know, suffocation, choking, yeah, a couple slash stabs, you know. But, some horrifying scenes in general, like the one where the girl gets taken out with a bag, it's in the closet and suffocated. And then, throughout the movie, you see her rocking in the chair and stuff. I mean, it's brilliant. It sets a tone of like unease, this film, and I love it. I think it's really good what the director did with this. And for me, and there's not a lot of gore in this picture either, guys. Not a lot of nudity. See a little bit of blood, but not a ton. But the acting in this thing, like I was getting to earlier, what I was speaking to earlier, a lot of these big-time actresses and actors of the time were in this thing. I mean, even John Saxon, you think of Enter the Dragon, and he pops up and he's in Black Christmas. And Keir Dullea, I believe, was like some kind of a British stage actor or something. I don't know. He did a lot of stuff, though, from what I understand. And Margot Kidder was Margot Kidder, Olivia Hussey, Romeo and Juliet and stuff like that. If you haven't seen that, that's worth a look. But so you've got these kind of big name actors and actresses. So the acting was competent in this thing. And, it really helps bring the whole thing together, especially for the time. I don't know if there's ever been a movie since that's had that good of acting, a horror or a slasher film, that I can think of, really well done. So you kind of had everything going for it at the time. But for me, it's kind of interesting. That's what I was saying, was this, strong characters too, though. Like these women, they're professional actresses. And so, the final girl, Olivia Hussey, I mean, she ends up killing somebody at the end who we think is the killer, and fights him off and basically kills him, right? Margot Kidder is kind of this lush, but she was really strong-minded and just pretty vulgar for a lady back then. And I love it. It's really good. And even Andrea Martin's character, they're pretty strong-willed ladies, and come across as reasonably empowered in this flick. And the way they kind of come together and bond, over a lot of the things that they're, going on in their sorority. And Olivia Hussey's character, I should also mention, decides that she's pregnant. She decides she's going to have an abortion. And of course, this sets PETA off the deep end. It's kind of a red herring there. But she's like, we're not having the baby. And like these are pretty big topics for a mid-70s slasher flick. So, they definitely took on quite a bit in there, but it all works out nicely. Now, is this movie a slasher? Well, I've always kind of classified it as a slasher. I think it is. It definitely has slasher elements, extreme slasher elements to it. But it's not like a pure slasher. It's more of a thriller, horror thriller kind of thing. And, and I was just watching Joe Bob's Red Christmas a week or two ago on Shudder. And, he kind of was saying the same thing where, he's like, well, is it really the first slasher, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many other horror movies before this. But, maybe it is kind of a proto-slasher. And a lot of the slashers that I consider slashers from the 70s, you could also consider proto-slashers. Because they're not true I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But they're kind of have elements of the slasher, but not like in-your-face slashing and like kind of like even like, for example, The Redeemer, Son of Satan. Okay, Death Weekend, not Death Weekend. Death Weekend. Oh shoot, yeah, is it Death Weekend? What am I talking about? Yeah, hang on a second, guys. What the hell's going on? Savage Weekend, The Redeemer, stuff like that. 3 on a Meat Hook. Sorry about that, folks. But I got all the little clamshells up there. Those movies, and it's weird. I mean, I kind of subconsciously placed them in a separate section up on the top there. And they are kind of proto-slashers. Savage Weekend is a great one. Yeah, Death Weekend is something else. But Savage Weekend, all those are kind of this proto-slasher kind of feel to them. Kind of greasy, kind of, got this sort of thing going on, but, it's not 100% slasher. And that's kind of like here. It's not a paint-by-the-numbers slasher film, and if you really want to get sacrilegious, and again, if you look at, the year 1978, you could almost make an argument, and I'm not making that argument here, I'm not saying this is the case, but, sitting down thinking about this last night, I was thinking, is it possible that the original Halloween is actually a proto-slasher? and that Halloween 2, because Halloween 2 is for sure a slasher. It's just a slasher. He's going around slashing, and it's a little bit over the top gore. It's a slasher film. The original, maybe more of a thriller, horror kind of thing. I mean, we can go back to the 60s, like Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, with, what's her face in it? What's that lady? I can't, who cares? It's a black and white slasher. But is it? It's just kind of a horror picture. It's thriller. Halloween, not a lot of slashing, not a lot of blood. There's some strangulation with a phone cord, of course, and in the car with Annie. And so, same thing. So where do you draw the line? I don't know. It's not up to me to draw the line. It doesn't really matter. But I just kind of, maybe I'm changing the way I'm looking at these. Maybe that's a proto-slasher, Halloween and this. And it's interesting either way that, you know, some of these ideas in Halloween, we've all heard the stories about how he got the idea from Bob Clark, but, you know, they did talk. And so, you know, maybe it did influence Halloween. It doesn't matter. Both great pictures. Halloween and Black Christmas, two of my all-time favorites. And I try to be pretty partial in my reviews, but I mean, I can't help it. I mean, I'm a Black Christmas guy, and I love Halloween as well. I love them both. It doesn't really matter. But you can go all the way back. Now, if you want to go back, 1972, guys, 2 years before this, Silent Night, Bloody Night. Go watch that. Go watch the first half an hour of that movie and tell me what you think of Black Christmas, where they got the idea from. There's scenes in there that are, it's like, I thought I was watching like Black Christmas in some weird dimension. Honest to God, it's not a complete slasher, the whole film. It's a horror picture, but there's slasher elements to it the first half. There's no question. There's scenes shot by shot, bloodletting, more blood in that one kill, I think, than there is in Black Christmas. But the same kind of point of view camera angles. Now people can say, well, Halloween, you know, lifted the point of view camera angles from Black Christmas, and people talk about that to this day. Silent Night, Bloody Night, where did they get that idea from? Black Christmas got it from them. Well, I tell you, I think they got it from the Italian Giallo. Now, I'm a Giallo fanatic. I've got all kinds of those pictures up here, and we'll talk about those too probably at some other time. I'll have to start another whole series. But I love the Italian Gialli. I just do. They're fantastic. And they really were the precursor to the North American, and I'm going to title it North American Slasher. The original Giallo pictures were Italian slashers. Plain and simple. They invented it. You know, going all the way back to the Spiral Staircase had Giallo elements, but, you know, Mario Bava probably created that with Blood and Black Lace, I would say. That was kind of the first well-known, touted Giallo film. But there's no question, those movies, Black Glove Killer, Black Hat, sometimes a nice fancy cape, black gloves, razor blade, slashing, bloodletting ladies of all kinds, graphically, point of view cameras of the damsel in distress as the guy comes in with a blade and hacks her and slashes her and blood flying all over the place. That was the original slasher. But we refer to slasher as the 80s, my favorite period. So I mean, really, we're talking about slasher films, and it's really actually a North American phenomenon, right? Ruggero Deodato, 1987, I believe, released an Italian North American slasher style film, Body Count. Fantastic. He was an Italian director. Like I said, it's a North American slasher, though. So I guess when we kind of take this whole concept of slasher, I would still say it kind of goes from 1980 to 89. You know, Offerings, 1989, somewhere around there. And 1980, you know, Friday the 13th kind of thing. Halloween and Black Christmas are maybe an anomaly. Maybe they're a proto-slasher in there, so slightly before, I don't know. But I think we can all kind of agree that the slasher film that we know and love is actually a North American phenomenon, because the Italians did do it first. But then you can kind of go back and say, well, this, like I said, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, and then you got Psycho in 61. So, but at the end of the day, does it really matter? What matters is that we review these films, guys, and we come back and watch them over and over and discuss them and keep them alive. So important, because we've got crap coming out from these Blumhouses and all these things. They're not all crappy movies, but they're made to bring in an audience, and it's a business, and I get it. But back then, there was more, even if the budget wasn't there was more passion behind these films. Okay? These directors weren't in it to make a buck, and there's nothing wrong with making a buck. But they wore these movies on their sleeve. Blood, sweat, and tears went into these movies. Incredible. And they shouldn't just be forgotten because, Netflix or Amazon and all these other subscriptions, which are great if you want to watch, whatever you want to watch. But these movies are forgotten. And that's one of the reasons, guys, that I do VHS thrift hauls and why I collect VHS to this day. Because my kid can't go and watch a video and go rent a video. I mean, she can rent a video from Dad's shop, which is kind of what I've recreated here. But, or go and do some illegal downloading of something. That's the only way you're going to see some of this stuff. And it's sad. And I just hope that, I and we can open more people's eyes to these films because there's nothing like them. Not only do they bring back a sense of nostalgia for myself and a lot of you out there, but there's a lot of younger kids that really dig this stuff. Right? Just like young kids today listen to like 80s metal and stuff. I mean, it's awesome. But, I don't know. Can you listen to all that, whatever album you want? Can you, pick out an album by, you can probably listen to Slayer and stuff on Pandora's box or whatever Pandora or whatever these music streaming things, whatever the hell it's called. But maybe you can't. So it's good to kind of keep these things alive. But especially the slasher film, guys. It's a thing that I have a passion for. So, if you guys like these videos, please subscribe. Leave some comments below. I greatly appreciate it. And give it a thumbs up so that, more people see these videos and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that, guys. More VHS thrift hauls coming up for sure. And I'm going to continue to review these. This is episode 1. We're going to do them all the ones that I have anyways that I can get my hands on and watch again. All the 80s slashers from beginning to end, in chronological order. So we can kind of see each year all the greats that came out. I mean, that's spectacular. So just thumbs up. Hit the notification bell, guys. Subscribe. Please appreciate it. I do appreciate it. Leave some comments below. And we will talk to you guys on the next one, guys. Take care.